The results-driven Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce invites you to connect your business with 1,000 other companies just like yours, including education and workforce development, healthcare, professional services, manufacturing, retail, nonprofit, trades and vocations, hospitality, among many others, and benefit with chamber programs and services such as government affairs, energy and economic development, small business assistance, networking opportunities, women in business programs, young people in business programs, and more. We invite your business to become a starring member of the Merrimack Valley Chamber today and see what a difference this chamber will make for you. Join your community's most trusted, effective, and relevant business network connection today. The Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Merrimack Valley Chamber Means Business Program. I'm your host, Mike Bevilacqua, the Vice President of the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm here with another special guest, Jimmy Carboni, who's host of a lot of great things that happen right here in Haverhill, right here in the Merrimack Valley with Craft Haverhill. So Jimmy, welcome to the show.
Michael, thanks for having me on. I'm really proud to be a member of the Merrimack Valley Chamber.
Well, we're honored to have you as a member. And as I mentioned, you run Craft Haverhill. So really quickly, tell everyone at home what Craft Haverhill is.
Well, I went to school in New York City, and very quickly I realized how important food was to my life, to all of us.
To my life.
And by the time I was 28, I had owned a restaurant in New York City, and it's pretty much been my life since then, food and drink, specialty products. And when I moved to Haverhill about almost 4 years ago, I wanted to have an identity in Haverhill separate from the other work I do, because I still involved with restaurants and festivals in New York. So I called it Craft Haverhill. I thought craft, in my mind, craft meant food and drink and things like that I love. And I can't, every day something I'm talking about or working with. And Haverhill is a great place. I mean, when you look at the venues available in Haverhill, like so many great cities, there's a lot of underused spaces. And the first thing that came to me was the boardwalk. The river boardwalk, the Brian Dempsey boardwalk downtown is fabulous. And it's great seeing Bosa now that they're open and Barrio at the other end. And for this point, you know, it's very quiet and people walk on it, but there's not too many activities there. And when I first moved here, the folks from the Greater Haverhill Foundation, who are part of that development at Harbor Place, they definitely wanted people to do some events after the pandemic.
Sure.
So I have a couple brands and themes that I do in New York. Been involved in craft beer, hard cider, barbecue, and newer events with mezcal and tequila. And knowing some of the top New England cider makers from New York, going way back, I knew that a few of them really wanted to be part of a June cider event. So the first event that I did, and we still do it every year, on the boardwalk right next to Barrio at Harbor Place in Haverhill, is the Cider Feast New England. And I'm proud of it mostly because we get all the top talent in New England to come to Haverhill. And I remember the first year we did it, we had a really great wine rep who's just only worked really with top Boston restaurants. And he came to meet me, and we sat on the boardwalk, and he said, you know, I didn't know that Haverhill had a river.
Yeah.
And so in that case, we're trying to spotlight the downtown, beautiful downtown, the historic downtown, the boardwalk, and that river and the history of it. And so much of Haverhill, whether it's John Greenleaf Whittier's poetry and just the history of Haverhill in general, it all started with that river.
Sure.
So,
you know, Jimmy, it's really great to have you here in the Merrimack Valley, right here in Haverhill, because like you said, there's people coming in. You're bringing people in now that we're not aware that these great things existed right here in Haverhill, or some of the great groups that we have in Haverhill, some of the great restaurants, some of the great arts and culture. They're now being aware of it because of you and what you do with these different festivals, and you're helping to bring people to this economy, to the Merrimack Valley, which is really great. And you mentioned the Cider Feast, which happens each and every year. It's going to be happening this week, but when this records, when this video airs, it'll already gone by. But one thing you also have coming up in July 25th, is the Tattersall Farm to Table event. So, you know, for people that may be looking and hearing about these great events, hearing about the great people they can see, hearing about the great food and drinks, what is the Tattersall Farm to Table event?
Well, Tattersall Farm is another, it's known, but it's still undiscovered. It's part of I call it rural Haverhill. There's, outside of the old 495, I realize there's places like Whittier Birthplace and East Haverhill, and out off of, by the high school past 97 is Tattersall Farm. It's almost in Atkinson, and it's over 50 acres. It's mostly trails. It's just a quiet place that anyone can go to, but it's got a lot of limitations because it's a respectful, quiet place. And one of the trustees, Kathy Bresnahan, reached out to me after we did the first cider feast downtown. She says, "Why don't you come out to Tattersall Farm and do an event there?" So we're there right where the old barn was. It's a knoll, and there's a beautiful view. You kind of from Tattersall Farm. You come in and there's the old house and there's a knoll on top where we have tents and we have different chefs and drink brands. And you can look down and there's just this beautiful, beautiful field with wildflowers and there's a trail that runs through it and it keeps going. And when the sun goes down at night, I don't think there's a better sunset in Haverhill. So that's what Tattersall Farm is.
Definitely a hidden gem right here in our own backyard. But what is the Farm to Table event that you're going to be having there on July 25th? So
the event, that's a real Haverhill event. It's evolved. In this case, it's all Haverhill restaurants.
Yeah.
And it's led with Kristen Carboni's back this year. She's going to be working with a lamb grilling station with Mark's Deli.
Yeah.
There's definitely a Greek flavor this year. La Pizza del Forno has been solid the last couple of years. They do some specialty Sicilian squares. The menu is really simple, but then we also have a couple other guest chefs grilling along with them with some area farms. There's a newish farm out in East Haverhill called Late Bloom Farm. We're going to be grilling their vegetables, and Old Wild Farm, also in East Haverhill, is going to have some flowers, and we'll be cooking their vegetables, and probably Chris's farm stand out of Bradford will be represented. But with the different chefs, Mike Harris from Roasted will be cooking some dishes. So we'll have 4 or 5 different restaurants participating.
Some great restaurants right here in Haverhill. Some great local produce as well, right? Farm vegetables right here in Haverhill as well. So it's a really great event, and then there's the drinks as well, correct?
Yeah, of course. It's more like almost like a cocktail party in that it's a tasting party. So you come in and you check in and you get your wristband, and then you walk around and there's different food stations and different drink stations. It's a great thing to go to with 3 or 4 friends. Have a nice night out. It's on a Thursday. It's meant to be kind of a warm up to the weekend.
Yeah. Pretty quiet night usually the week, so this gives you something to get out there and do on July 25th. And as you mentioned, the scenery right there at Tattersall Farm with all this great food and these great drinks, you really can't beat. So if people are looking to register for this event or find out more information, how do they do that?
Well, it's easy. Go through the website we have for Haverhill called crafthaverhill.com. And it's pretty straightforward. The events with tickets are on there, and there's an Eventbrite link. And I feel like they're a good value because we are giving back with the events too. And in this case, we make donations to Tattersall Farm, which is a nonprofit, and it's owned by the city, but the trustees have to run it, and they always need some budget.
Sure.
So we're giving back to them. We're also supporting WHAV. With this event.
Some great local nonprofits right here in Haverhill. So you're enjoying your time, but also having a great time as well, and giving back also. What was your inspiration in bringing these events to Haverhill? We talked about that, how you have the cider feast, which is happening this week. It'll be gone by the time people are viewing this. And obviously July 25th, the Tattersall Farm to Table. And then you're associated with the Tasty Awards as well, which is a great way to recognize some great restaurants and bars and different establishments right here in Haverhill also. But what was your inspiration for bringing all this to Haverhill and to the Merrimack Valley?
Well, it really goes back to when I lived in New York, when I was finishing up school. I just loved arts, culture, was involved in music, and then food and owning a restaurant kind of went hand in hand. And when you're in New York City, you're not just feeding people. There's a lot of entertainment, just in the fact that there's young actors and musicians who come in as your customers, and every night really does feel like a party. So that's kind of become that's what my role in life is to bring people together, curate good food and drink. But in more of a party setting, but like a dinner party setting or a walk-around cocktail party setting. And I had 2 different restaurants over 30 years in Manhattan in New York. But about 15 years ago, I started hosting events, mostly as fundraisers for my daughter's school.
Okay.
And next thing you know, I was doing 1,000, 3,000 person events in New York City. And I really enjoy creating new ones. So we have some that are ongoing. We always have charitable partners, But coming to Haverhill was a whole new opportunity. And Cider Feast was an obvious one because there hadn't been a New England-focused cider event that I knew of. And people were asking me to do it in Boston and in Portland, and now we do. But my first place doing it was Haverhill.
That's great.
And it's still based in Haverhill. And with Tattersall Farm, that was a completely different event. It was meant to be a Haverhill event. But still, even with the drinks, we're bringing in a brewery from Ipswich and a brewery from Biddeford, Maine. There's a winery out in Central Mass that'll be there, a wine importer from Andover. There'll be a couple of ciders from the region, one from Exeter, New Hampshire, one from Andover as well. So we're still trying to bring talent to Haverhill. But Haverhill is, when you see what you guys do with the Chamber, Haverhill is just, when I look back at the history of Haverhill, and you think of what's here, from Newburyport to Lowell and into southern New Hampshire, this is a great area. And that's probably what gets me excited, is that when I was a kid, I rushed to get out. I think I was coming of age right when the parking deck was going up. And I can say this, I'm really happy that it's coming down, and really thrilled about the new development on Merrimack Street and the historic New England going in Essex Street. And I just feel like I just got lucky that I came back at the right time.
No, it really is perfect timing. I want to say thank you again for being part of the show. Thank you for bringing these great Cider Feast and Tattersall Farm to Table events right here to Haverhill. It really helps highlight what we have here in Haverhill, some of the great arts and culture as well. You're bringing people in that, again, would not be here without you. So I just want to say thank you again for being part of the show. Tell everyone home one last time how to learn more about these great events.
So just stay in touch with our Haverhill events at crafthaverhill.com. And Tattersall Farm to Table will be July 25th, 2024 at Tattersall Farm in Haverhill. Thank you, Michael.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for being part of the show. Thank you all for being part of another edition of the Merrimack Valley Chamber Means Business program. And we look forward to seeing you all again next time. Thank you very much.